I am Jan Edwards, and this is my channel, Inspired Moment Messages. And today I'm doing one of a series of interviews on different topics. And I have 3 guests. 2 of them are right here with me. One is on the way, hopefully, cross fingers. And the topic today is the most important, greatest book you will ever read is the one you write. So, hi Shayla, hi Mandy.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Hi
Jen. Mark. How are you?
I am good, thank you. How are you?
I am good. Oh my gosh, this is so strange because one of you I have, actually all of you I've talked with on the phone. 2 of you I've had interviews with. One I haven't seen in person yet, so it's kind of fun, which I love because my channel and what my life is about, which reflects what my channel is all about, just like don't rehearse anything. Be real wherever you're at with whoever you're at with, and you know, and just start creating that awareness and moving that forward in everything you do, because you know humanity has come a long way, and I'm here to try to change it. So I will just ask each of you to introduce yourself by just telling us your name and what your primary business is, and just like a minute each. So Mandy.
That's a trick question for me. So my name is Mandy Graziano. I'm originally from Ohio. I am Ohio State just lost, by the way. And I am in San Diego, California. I have 3 businesses, 3 primary businesses, actually. So my main business is with Hospitality Performance Network. I find conference venues and hotels for people all over the world for large and small conferences or executive retreats. I negotiate contracts and I turn it back over to my clients to plan. And if they don't have a planner, then I have a team of people that can do the planning for them. And in tandem, I've run a business and sales coaching business for the last 14 years, where I help companies grow, either entrepreneurs start businesses or companies expand their business, or I help sales team be better salespeople or better leaders. And then recently I wrote a book. You can see in the background, Sales Tales, Hustle, Humor, and Lessons from a Life in Sales. And that just came out October 20th. So 3 things I do: coaching, speaking, writing, and then the conference consulting.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. All right, Shayla.
Hi, I am Shayla, originally from North Platte, Nebraska, currently residing in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And for the past 3 years, I have been running my spiritual coaching business. So I am a personal development and spiritual coach. I'm a quantum energy healer. I read tarot and also study astrology and use that with my clients. So my mission, and I feel like my purpose for being here on the planet, is to, obviously, first it was to ignite and to find myself and to step in and to be who I am to my fullest potential. And when I came into that state, it was like, I'm here to help other people do the same. So my mission is to empower the collective and to assist however I can in the facilitation of change from within. And writing has been a huge part of my journey as well. I'm in the middle of 2 books. I write poetry, and then I'm also in the process of actually creating a novel. So by the end of this next year, both of those will be released. So I'm a coach, I'm an energy healer, and I'm a writer.
Nice, beautiful. I love that. Thank you. Mark?
Thank you.
I have an interesting history. I have to say, I'm sorry to hear Ohio State lost, but I grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, so I'm not that sorry.
Well, congratulations on your win, Mark. I'll be a good sport.
I gave up on watching football because the University of Michigan did so badly for so many years. It was pathetic. And I have been to North Platte, Nebraska. One year when I was driving back from Michigan to Southern California, my car broke down in North Platte, and we had to get a part shipped from out here so that we could finally make it home. So I feel at home here with people I've been right now.
Nice.
My primary business, I would still have to say, is that I've been a software engineer professionally for going on 42 years now. In the process of doing that, I've been a writer for longer than that, but I didn't publish my first book until this year. And the background behind me, you see, is a piece from the cover of the book. It's called Mystic Prince. It's an epic fantasy. I have loved epic fantasy since I was a child. I got started on Edith Hamilton's mythology, which I must have read hundreds of times. And then I moved into the Narnia series, the Lord of the Rings, and I've read gobs of fantasy. And I decided to write one for myself. This a little over a year and a half ago, I came down with COVID. And when I recovered from my coma, I figured there was a reason I was here, and I wasn't sure what it was, but the book finally made itself known in my life to the point where I got an editor, and she loved it. She helped me get it published, and it's up on Amazon Kindle. And in the background, I am also a Toastmaster, and I got my Distinguished Toastmaster in February of this year after 6 years of working at just doing speeches because I like doing speeches. But then I decided to get involved. And at the time that COVID knocked me down, I was the president of my Toastmasters Club, the president of my church, and I was one of the leaders of district programs for the Toastmasters in our district, which covers all of San Diego and a little bit of Arizona.
Wow. Such a dynamically diverse group.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Thank you all for being here. So I'm going to jump right into the main question, which is the topic of, and we'll start with Mark. So this topic is the greatest, most important book you'll ever read is the one you write. And what I meant by that is unknowingly, we have all written a book, whether it's finished or unfinished, whether it's published or unpublished, it doesn't matter. But through the process of writing the book, we actually found a new pathway of healing or transformation of some kind, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that we totally didn't expect. And I just want you to share in general kind of what that was for you, Mark.
Wow. When I started writing the book that I just published, I think it was in 1991. And I had this idea. I had gotten into fantasy role-playing games because I love fantasy adventures. And because when you're in dry docks in San Francisco in the Navy and there's really nothing literally to do, anything to relieve the boredom is good. And I got introduced to fantasy role-playing games and I decided I liked them, and I actually wrote my own game. But that's not enough for me. And I decided to write a story that wasn't fantasy adventure, and it grew. It actually consists of 7 full-length novels right now.
Wow.
Writing them wasn't enough. I got into a writing critique group about 12 years ago, and I learned a whole lot about writing that I had no idea. It's not just putting words on paper. It's bringing people to life that don't exist, creating the full 3-dimensional characters, having them interact. And in starting with just the basic story, I had to expand it to include the full background for me of what the world was like and what the society was like and how they worked and what the different nations were, how they interacted. And part of it is about learning spiritual lessons along the way. Working that all in together was a huge educational experience for me. And when I finally got a professional editor and she told me she loved it, that to me was an enormous validation. And so far, I've gotten only 4- and 5-star reviews on Amazon. So I'm touching people, and that just fills my heart.
Beautiful. And so you didn't expect that. Is that what I'm hearing?
I hoped for it, but I wasn't sure. The feedback I've gotten from people who haven't even written reviews on Amazon, but the people that I sold the book to personally, have all told me, I was going to read this over 3 or 4 days, whatever it took, and I couldn't put it down. And my thought is, wow. somebody else likes it as much as I do. That's great.
Hmm.
And if they're getting something out of it, that's the most important thing for me.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you. We're going to come back to you, but I'm going to move over to Shayla. What about you? What was your process? What happened?
So I want to start a little bit with childhood. I was very suppressed, and as I've come into myself, I've found that I'm a very expressive human. So I had this whole realization of kind of like why I felt the way I felt growing up. There's just a lot of really no space for me to be me. And one of my outlets was always writing. And at first it was research and just, stuff you did in school. And when I was 15, I started to play around with affirmations. And I didn't know that I was writing affirmations, but I realized that what I was writing was now influencing my life and influencing the way that I showed up in the world and just who I was as a human overall. And I went through this huge process of growth and transformation, 15, 16, 17 years old. And I want to fast forward then to college. I was very unhappy and had all this trauma that I needed to deal with from childhood that I didn't know was there. And I had a vision, I had a dream. And Spirit told me, you need to leave school and you need to write your book. And at that time in my life, I was like, write a book? I'm not a writer. Like, how could this be? What does this even mean? And I knew that there was a lot I needed to experience in order for me to then write the book. But I actually left school and started dove into my spiritual journey. And I stopped writing for a while when I first left school, and I recognized the decline in my spiritual growth and just my process. And then every time I picked up the pen and would start to write, it was like my mood, my consciousness, everything about me was elevated and lifted up to this whole new level. So after a couple of years out of college, I was like, okay, there's something here. I'm supposed to write. So for me, writing was integral for my healing journey. And I naturally gravitated to poetry. And found that I liked the flow. I liked just being in the zone, so to say, and things just came out. So my writing journey has been very intuitive, and I never saw myself as being a writer or even taking those next steps to publish or to actually create a written work. And I'm still kind of in those stages of like, oh, am I really going to do this? Is this really the path for me? So again, just overcoming some of the confidence issues, so to say, and really allowing my innermost self be seen by the world. But I use writing techniques with my clients because it's been so healing for me as well. And to see other people begin to pick up the pen and start to write their story, to write how they want to live, and then to see that come to fruition. It's been incredible. So yeah, I've really come into myself and recognized potential that we all have as human beings on just a completely different level. And it's really shown me that we are the ones that are in charge. And when we decide where we want to direct our energy, the energy has no other choice but to go in that direction. Yeah, so it's been it's been key. That's been the key in my healing journey, as well as the process of manifesting and bringing things to fruition in my life.
Beautiful. So I'm hearing, a common theme of journey of self-expression, self-discovery, healing, confidence. Yeah. Does that ring true for you, Mandy?
For sure. Yeah, it's interesting because the act of writing is healing for me. It's the same for me with riding a bike. If you put me ride a bike and then an hour later write something, I'm in heaven, total bliss, right? And for me, I've always written. I've always had journals with me. I always knew I was going to write a book. Now, whether I was going to publish it or not, totally different story, but I always knew I was going to write a book. And if my mom was the only one that was going to read the book, I would be fine with that. The book took a totally different trajectory, which I'm really happy about, but it went farther than I ever expected it to go, which in itself was healing. But I also feel there's so many nuggets that I got from it, that healed wounds I didn't even know that I had. You know, I had time management. You know, when you work a full-time job like we all do, and then you squeeze in time to pursue a passion, a non-revenue producing passion for a bit, at least, you don't know where it's going to take you. But you have to make time for it, you know. So the way I handle time is totally different. The way I look at time, the way I connect with time, connect with people in time is totally different today than it was when I first started writing the book back in 2017. And then, you know, along the way, when I did have to make time for the book and my job and my normal life, my marriage got better. You know, my marriage has always been great, but it got better because I was making a declaration of what I wanted for myself, what I needed for myself, and I committed to a plan and I stuck to it. And there were times where that plan involved needing my brain being really clear for the next day to focus. So I didn't have time or really mental space for some of the gobbledygook that can happen in some of your interpersonal relationships. And so I cleared the decks with some of those, and I healed some of those. I moved some inner relationships to outer rings, people still in my life, but maybe not as important or as priority, and vice versa, me to them too. And so it healed some relationships that needed to be moved to different rings of friendships. And then it reignited things in my marriage where, you know, my husband always knew I wanted to write a book, but now I'm sitting down and doing it, and I'm making time, and I was taking myself on writing retreats and hunkering down in a hotel for 2 days by myself, eating popcorn for all 3 meals. And, you know, it took a commitment from him too, to say, oh, she's serious about this. And I've got to do my part in helping her clear the decks and help her make sure that she's got mental space available to do what she wants to do. So it was 2 accidental things that happened that were very, very beneficial, my time management piece, and then just the way I handle relationships in general now. So it's great. But it's funny, Mark, because when you said, you know, you think your book's pretty good, but you didn't know what other people would think. I've had that same experience where people were like, I read it in 2 airplane rides. And that, you know, I read it in 2 airplane rides too, but I'm a little biased, right? It was just like you are. But that's one thing people have said over and over. I couldn't put it down, or it was such a smooth, fast read. And that is so glorious to hear, because you just, writing it is one thing, publishing it's another, but then people are actually going to read it. Like the scary thing of somebody's going to read it, and what will they think? And for people to bring you back information is awesome. I had recently somebody send me an email with a picture of a sticky note from different action items that she took from my book, and she put it a picture of the sticky note that's up on her computer at work. And I'm like, what a gift. What a gorgeous gift that is, because people can buy the book. You don't know if they read it. And if they read it, you don't know how they retain it. And then that happens, right? So I think it's been a magical experience overall. And I'm just keeping my eyes open to, you know, what other gifts the book's going to give me, and hopefully I can give to the world and to the universe and anybody who wants to read it too.
Beautiful. So do you all think that everyone has a book in them?
Oh,
At
yeah.
least, yeah.
Oh, definitely. Everyone has a story.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
And do you think more than one book, or at least one? I mean,
Depends on how long the book's going to run.
true. Oh my gosh. I have to share along that line. This isn't about me, but this interview is about you, but I just have to share. I started a book in 2015, and it's a co-authored book, and I invited other people to author a chapter. And the book is called Inspired to Change. And so from the title, you can gather it's, you know, monumental change in your life. So I had written my chapter in it, and then a year went by, and that wasn't what I wanted to write about anymore. So I wrote another one. So basically every year, now I'm at the point where, well, I can't publish that yet because I haven't put out my greatest change yet, you know, and it's just hilarious. You as a book writer, or, you know, even if we don't call ourselves book writer, as someone who is writing a book, you can have that perfectionism thing in you where it keeps you from finishing because you think it's not finished yet, or it's not good enough yet, or there's something else that's going to come. And this isn't even in my lineup of questions, but I'm bringing it in. So just one little nugget, what each of you would say to the person who, like me, I mean, I'm a midwife for others to bring their books into the world, but I haven't brought mine into the world yet. What one little tiny nugget would you say, Mandy?
Just do it. Just start. I mean, I've had people through this whole process, when they hear I'm writing a book or I wrote a book, the countless number of people, and I'm sure you two have had this experience too, say, well, I've always wanted to write a book, or I've been thinking about writing a book. And as soon as I say, do it, just sit down and do it, people's posture changes, their eyes light up. It's almost like an external permission to just do it. And just realize, because I had the same thing where I was like, well, I'm not done with this, or I have another chapter. Just stop. You're going to have to stop somewhere. And all that other extra stuff you have, it can be another book and another book. I mean, I have files now I have a book 2 file, book 3 file, book 4 file, stuff that didn't make the cut. So just do it. Sit down and do it, and write an outline and see where that takes you. Just try.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I tell my clients, exactly that. But sometimes when it comes to doing your own advice, there's some little block, right? We have that little block.
We're the worst. Yeah, we're the worst at taking our own advice, all of us, I'm guessing.
Okay, Shayla.
Yeah, absolutely. I have found myself in that space for a while, where I was like, there has to be something that happens, like this big grandiose event, for me to then complete my book. And I came to the conclusion that it's not about the big grandiose event, or it's not about feeling ready, but in those moments of waiting, quote unquote, there was things for me to learn. So I would say, talk to the fear. What is the fear trying to teach you? What is underneath of that? And for me, that was my answer. That's what I needed to find, was everything is here right now. And we have the ability to call into existence whatever we want to call into existence, if we so choose that to be. So very similar to what you shared, Mandy. Yeah, just do it. Just sit down and do it. And that's where the magic happens. So in this present moment. Yeah.
Yeah, great advice. Mark?
I would go with what one of my favorite authors and a gentleman I met says, which is, as a writer, it's our job to write anything. We can always edit it later. And from my experience, the book that I just published used to be twice as big as it is now. And I had to throw out large chunks because, for me, one of the driving passions in it was, does this add to the story? Or is it not important to the story? And there were a lot of things that got thrown in addition when other things were thrown out. But everything follows the same line and drives the plot forward. It's a novel. Just write anything. There was one point where when I was writing this book, that I found myself I'd written myself into a corner. I went, oh, I can't have this. So I started backing up, and it took me 5 whole chapters that I backed up to get rid of in order to get out of that hole and write in a different direction. It is, even if it takes backing up, it can always be fixed. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough.
Yeah.
And I think to build on what Mark said is, it doesn't have to just be one medium, right? So you can write with the intention of writing for the book, or you can just write and know, I don't know, some of this may be in the book, some of this just may be healing for me to get onto paper or on the computer screen. Some of this could be blog posts, some of this can be an email to an old friend. Like, it doesn't always have to be with the intention of the book, but if you have the intention to write, you can use all that material in different things, even social media posts and snippets for the promotion for the book, or different things like that down the road. It doesn't always have to be for the book. I just think getting it out and then you can decide how you'll use it later is very powerful.
For sure.
Agreed.
So for each of you, what do you feel is continuing as far as your healing or transformation from writing your book? That's kind of like your next step or your next part of the journey. What do you think is next? You can feel it coming, you can see it coming, you want to, and it all started with the writing of the book. What's next for you, Shayla?
Wow, I love that question. I think for me, just completion of the book, like that's the next step in the next process. But throughout this journey, I have, I guess, really just like slipped on my writer shoes and said, yes, this is who I am, and it's encouraged self-expression in all other areas of my life. So simultaneously right now, I am building a course on how to read tarot and how to tap into your intuitive abilities. Because for me, that was a big part of just writing, like getting it all out. So I could then tap into these higher aspects and parts of myself. So I feel like right now, just overall in my life, there's no limits. Like the bars have just completely dissolved, and I'm kind of in this place of just viewing like all of the potentials of how to move forward, and the fact that there really is nothing limiting us but our own mind. So yeah, moving forward, creating a course, completion of the book in particular, and just remaining open to all of the potentials and possibilities that come to me.
Unlimited.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Love that. Mark, what about you?
I'll go with a lot of what Shayla just said about breaking down limits, because one of the things that I have avoided most of my entire life is being in any kind of sales or marketing issues. And it has come to me that one of the things I have been able to do my entire professional career is market myself. I've been able to find jobs and work with people and provide what they needed to keep me going. And when not, then I moved in another direction. And with books, what I have found since publishing this, the number one thing I learned after publishing it was start the publicity campaign 6 months before you publish. So I'm now a year behind that process and need to catch up. And this has opened up a whole new world of exploration that I need to learn more. And I've been learning all my life. Now I have a new steep learning curve. I have a steep learning curve at my new job. I have a steep learning curve in terms of marketing and getting my book out. And it's not about making money. It's about learning what it takes to be successful as an author. And there's a lot of area where it has nothing to do with being an author per se, but learning how to talk to people, how to interest people in wanting to read the book without saying, I want you to read my book, here, buy my book, because that just doesn't work. But if I talk to people, and we happen to be talking about fantasy, epic fantasy fiction, it may come up and people like it. So I have lots more to learn.
Beautiful. So different. I love the, like I said, diversity on all of you. So good. Mandy?
I have a couple things. So I think spiritually and emotionally, I'm going to continue to ask for help, which is something I didn't do as much prior to the book. And anytime I asked for help with anything with the book, people and circumstances showed up. And it was amazing. And it was things that I didn't even know I needed help with. And then people were there or circumstances were there. So I'm going to continue to ask for help in all avenues of my life, not just with the book, because that was very fulfilling. And then it also gave me an opportunity to help other people too. It was beautiful. It was unexpected and beautiful. I mean, a little story. I was at my book launch party, and you're an author. You don't have a team of people setting everything up for you, right? So I'm on the rooftop of this gorgeous hotel, and I'm literally just sweating in my outfit, and I'm setting books out and getting my square ready and all the good stuff. And a friend of mine who had flown in from Arizona was looking out the window and he's yelling down, Mandy. He's like, do you need help? I'm like, I need a drink. And so second, he came down, got a drink for me, and then just started helping me set up. And then 2 other friends were in their hotel room, came down. No, before I know it, I had this army of people helping me set up. And it was like, why did I think I could do this by myself? But then people just showed up. And I mean, I have so many examples like that where people just want to help. They want you to succeed and they want you to do well. And it's empowered me to just look at opportunities and ways I can lift other people up, especially other writers. So Mark, when you say your stuff about marketing and sales, I am learning so much too, because this is not my business. And my husband and I talk about this all the time. It's like, I had to learn Instagram and TikTok and Canva and Ingram Sparks and Amazon. You're learning all this stuff you don't know. And every single thing is a brain twist. So I appreciate you saying that, because I've gone through extreme amounts of learning too this past year with this book promotion thing. So I guess I offer that to you. If you want to talk offline, you need any help with any of it. I went through it all alone, and I vowed to advocate and help other writers. If you ever want to bounce ideas off of me, I'm happy to help, because I learned a lot by stumbling and falling, but I'm glad I did it. But yeah, I mean, I think, spiritually, I'm just going to continue to ask for help and give help when I can. And then from a technical standpoint, I'm recording my audiobook in early February. So I'll have a second audiobook launch spring of next year. And then I've been booking speaking engagements for mostly sales kickoff meetings or team type events. So I just want to continue to book speaking engagements and just talk about sales, and advocate that we all need sales in every part of our life. So there's a technical growth, and then there's the spiritual, emotional growth too.
Pretty much always it's that way.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That Ralph Pottsy double-sided happy days thing, right?
Yeah. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have about 5 minutes left, and I want to just take a minute with each of you and ask if you could pass on one big golden nugget to the person watching this who is either already starting their book, but they're kind of at a pause. Maybe they're stuck for whatever reason. They're not continuing. How can they continue forward? Or the person who hasn't started yet, maybe they're saying, who am I to write a book? Who's going to read it? How would you encourage those people to continue, and maybe even address their idea that it has to be something for the world rather than for the self? So just a 1 minute nugget. Mandy?
I would just say make time for writing every day. It doesn't have to be an hour. It can be 5 minutes. It can be 3 pages double spaced, but it's an exercise that you have to do every day if you want to write a book. And just know every time you sit down to write, it's not always going to be about the book, but the exercise of actually doing that, clearing your mind, getting focused, putting pen to paper or finger to screen, that is really important part of the journey. So make the time, block it in your calendar and do it, and find that time of day that works best for you. I'm better in the mornings. I learned that on this journey, but try and experiment and just do it.
Thank you. Mark?
I think that the biggest hit I've gotten out of all my writing is when I'm stuck, take a break. Just take a break, stop, sit back, maybe go back and read the last few chapters to see where I was so I have an idea where I'm going, or write something completely different. I actually started writing a science fiction novel. I wrote myself into a corner on that one. And the document it's written in is encrypted and I can't remember the password. So if I'm going to ever take that book up again, I'll be starting from scratch.
Whoa.
And that's okay. If something gets lost, recreate it. I actually did lose about 10 chapters of my book at one point because my machine went down. It didn't work out right. And when I recovered it, all the stuff I had was really old. So I had to go back and write it all over again. That was, I think it was better having done that. Now I keep better backups, so I learned something in the process.
Lots of learning here. I love it.
Yeah. Life is about learning. And if I'm not learning something, something is radically wrong.
Yes.
So I'm here to learn, and whatever it takes, there are plenty of things out there to learn.
Thank you. What about you, Shayla?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna come back to just do it. Make the time, like Mandy said, sit down and find the time of day that works best for you and get it out. And also trust yourself and trust the journey and trust the process. We all feel this calling for a reason. Those of us who feel like we're writers or have the idea to write a book, there's something in us that we came here to express, and that's going to help somebody else. And it takes a certain level of confidence in ourselves and in our voice and in the entirety of our being to be able to share that with other people. And even if it's not shared with someone, it's written it into the timeline of existence. And that act in and of itself is so incredibly powerful and has the ability to completely transform and change our lives. Not only that, but the lives of all of us. So yeah, if you feel the call to write, make the time and do it. And trust yourself in the process.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you will all get in touch with each other through either our email chain or social media or whatever. I'm just really grateful that I've been doing this. It's one of the things that I had a knowing about maybe 40 years ago that I wanted to interview, and I forgot. 30 years went by and I forgot. And now here I am.
This opportunity.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for bringing us together. This is awesome.
Yeah,
yes,
it's great.
I just want to inspire people. That's why my channel is called Inspired Moment. It's about being in this moment right now. What's inspiring you? Like tap into that. And for sure, the most important book you will ever read is the one you write. So anyone want to get in touch with me for ghostwriting, editing, life guidance, or access consciousness, I'm available. I'll have the description box with the information of these beautiful people in it below, including if they wish to disclose the name of their book. I know 2 of you have, 1 of you hasn't, doesn't matter. And contact info for all of us. So happy Thanksgiving here in America. Blessed be all of the humans in this consciousness that we are living. And I look forward to seeing you in the next interview.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
so much, Jen. Bye.
Nice meeting you, ladies.
Nice to meet you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.